Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to Visordown. My name's Toad and we are in Valencia for the press launch of the new 2022 Yamaha Mt-10. And this is a bike that you can absolutely say seems like it's been around for a lifetime in its form and never really been updated. It was well and truly due for a technical and a visual refresh. And now it has happened, and here it is. So this has just been launched. This is the stock bike, not the SP. That's going to get launched a little bit later on this year, I hope. And it's going to be a UK run event. So this is just really the bread and butter bike in the Mt-10 range. This is £13,300. which, if you put it into that group of super nakeds that goes from sort of stuff like the GSX-S 1000 all the way up to the Street Fighter V4, is still very good value for money. You can pick it up on a PCP deal in the UK for about £139 a month over 36 months, and I think that is with, I'm checking my notes because I don't want to get it wrong, a 25% deposit. So all in all, it is kind of cheap motoring. Funnily enough, we were riding the T-Max Tech Max yesterday, which you might be looking at on your screen right now, and the PCP payment came in at almost exactly the same amount, which was quite an interesting fact, that you can get, you know, a T-Max or an Mt-10 for exactly the same money. Completely different markets, I know. What have we been doing today? It's just a road launch, but we have had so many laughs on this launch. I don't think I've ever wheelied a bike on the road as much as this. We've ridden like basically children, and every time we've pulled into a photo stop or a lay-by or a coffee stop or lunch, we've all just been giggling into our helmets like absolute school children. And that for me is what the Mt-10 is all about. It's about going out there and enjoying a motorcycle that is built and designed specifically for road use. And the updates that Yamaha have brought, which I'm going to go through all of them in a moment, have absolutely nailed this bike into that sector where I think it belongs. So first and foremost, I'm going to talk about the styling. So yes, it's been massively revised. Yes, it's totally different to the old Mt-10. But come on, what did you expect? You saw the Mt-07, you saw the Mt-09, and now they've done a number on the Mt-10. And Yamaha have even told us that they didn't set out to make a beautiful or a pretty bike. That's not what the MT family is about. It's called the Master of Torque, it's the dark side of Japan, and it's all about making a bike that is really, really striking with a lot of visual impact. And again, on that front, they've nailed it. You cannot miss this thing, but it does, and this is really, really important, look like a member of the MT family. If you stripped off all the pictures and you hadn't seen any of the news in the press about the new styling, you would instantly be able to recognise this as a Yamaha Mt-10 and not anything else from any other manufacturer. So the styling is new. We've also got revised front suspension. So the hardware is the same. It's the KYB fully adjustable forks and fully adjustable rear shock, but the internals have been revised, so you've got increased damping rates slightly, and it's a little bit taller and a little bit more nose down than the previous generation bike. The ergonomics have been tweaked, so the bars are a little bit changed, the position of them. The seat is a little bit more swept up, and the foot peg position, I believe, is the same. The bars and the seat, I'm going to say it, you're not going to notice the change. I couldn't feel a thing, didn't feel like I was in a different position. I did find the seat more comfortable. As you'll know, if you watch Visordown quite a lot, I'm normally the first person to moan if a bike feels uncomfortable. And really, after 200 kilometres today, well, it sounds like a short distance, but you have to stop quite a lot. And all day on the bike, filming, riding, pulling wheelies, being silly, basically. The only thing that was aching was just the inside of my thighs where they were digging in here. Not a problem at all for most people. We've got a quick shifter system which includes a blipper, which is also new for this year. We've got a TFT dash which is taken from the R1 and then adapted for the Mt-10 as well. We've also got something which is pretty cool. It's a speed limiter. You set your maximum speed that you want to ride at, and it doesn't matter what you do with your right hand, the bike isn't going to go any faster. In the UK, with the masses and masses of average speed cameras, for people who do travel on their Mt-10s, and there are masses of you, that is going to be a really interesting and exciting feature. We have also got new downpipes. So these downpipes that you can see on the bike just below me, they are all titanium. The back box is still stainless steel, but the downpipes are now titanium. They've got a smaller end cam, and they've also changed the catalyzer layout, and it is still Euro 5 compliant, and I can affirm that it absolutely sounds fabulous when you're out on the road. Oh, the other thing, it's got Bridgestone, latest generation Bridgestone S22 hoops fitted to it. So in the press conference, they spoke about more power. Really, I can tell you it's got more power, but power isn't what the Mt-10's about. Power is about that fabulous, chunky, mid-range torque that makes riding one on the road so much fun, and that's what they've done. They've boosted the mid-range torque, so the internals of the engine are heavier. They've ditched the titanium conrods of the R1 and the R1M, and they've gone for heavier sort of cast conrods. There's more rotational mass built into the crank, so it's all there to give that bottom end and that mid-range, that really, really juicy, lovely feel that just makes this bike want to stand up on its back wheel in first, second and even third gear whenever you just twist the throttle. It's a lot of fun to ride. One point of note with the engine, I never really got on with the throttle connection of the previous generation Mt-10. It kind of felt to me like one of those computer games that you sit on in the arcade, and it's like the Isle of Man TT Racer computer game, and you open the throttle and there's almost no resistance to it, and it just didn't feel like a throttle. It felt like you were asking a computer to do a load of things for you. They've updated that for this year, and they've also updated all of the electronics so that they're now latest generation, same as the R1 and the R1M. And the throttle is the biggest thing that you'll notice as soon as you get on the bike, basically. The feel and the accuracy and the crispness of the throttle is just massively improved over the previous bike. That's one feature that I'm really glad they updated, and it works perfectly. So that's all good in my eyes. I've got to... sake, do you want an autograph? I just want a beer. I just want to drink a beer. Oh, what the is this? It's a free-for-all, man. Anybody else? Do you want to come through here? No? Walk through the shop. So you can't really talk about the Yamaha Mt-10 and not talk about the electronics, because while it is not as exotic as some of the other super nakeds in the category, it is chock full of R1 derived zeros, ones, gadgets, gizmos and all sorts of electronic assistant. The one that most of you are going to want to use is the lift control, and it is a lot better than it previously was. It's much slicker. You can just lift the bike on the front wheel. I was trying most of the day, failing some of the time and then succeeding at other times, but it was all my own doing. It wasn't the bike's fault. So you just get the bike up to a certain height and you keep the same sort of throttle input, and the bike will just sort of sit there and hover. It's so much fun. You do get the feeling that you could get on this thing with not masses of experience of riding 1000cc super nakeds, and you would be wheeling your heart out after a few hundred miles. It's a lot of fun, and I recommend you to go and try it. Maybe not on a demo bike at your local dealer though. So on a launch, normally what I'd do is I'd go through things like miles per gallon and what your maximum range is, all of that good stuff. And I know that people travel on their Mt-10s, and I'm sorry that I've not done it on this launch, but basically I was just having too much of a laugh. We were just enjoying the bike, not worrying about, well, some people here were asking what miles per gallon they were getting and kilometers per litre and all that sort of good stuff. But for me, it was just about enjoying the bike, not worrying about the fuel, and just taking it out like a punter would to just go away and blow away the cobwebs and go and enjoy a sunny afternoon on some really, really nice roads on a bike that is just so good at that thing. It's so good at just being a road bike that you can go out and have fun on. So what do we like about the Mt-10? Listen, this is still 100% it's the same laugh a minute, giggle into your helmet bike that the Mt-10 always was. That's what Yamaha set out to do, and they've not ruined that. You know, they've added technology, they've upgraded the suspension, the engine's been tweaked, and none of that stuff has affected that at all. If anything, it's added to the level of fun that you can have with this bike. I know a lot of you who are watching this, and if you're an Mt-10 owner, you've probably got the Mt-10 Tour, which is still happening, by the way. You can go out and get a weekend pack, which basically replicates it. Instead of the saddlebags, you've got a top box. I know a lot of you do a lot of miles on your bike, but in standard trim, even with the standard seat, and I'm normally the first to moan, the comfort is very, very good. So that is an absolute plus on my side. The other thing that works supremely well is the quick shifter. I'm saying that aside from the rest of the electronics, which I'll go into in a moment, but the quick shifter on this is bloody good. Lets you shift on a partially open throttle, or if you're not quite on it or not quite off it, which is really nice, and it smooths out the gear changes up and down the box really, really nicely when you're riding around town, which is normally where a shit quick shifter will make itself felt. The final thing is the electronics, because they just flatter you as you ride. They don't inhibit you, they don't make you slower, they just make you look like you're a better rider than maybe you are. That's the case with me. So what don't we like? I still find the thumb wheel fiddly. You know, the little thumb wheel on the right hand handlebar? I still think that's fiddly, especially when you're wearing gloves, even leather gloves. I always just end up like getting fed up, pulling over and doing it there. and taking my gloves off and all that sort of stuff. That's a little bit frustrating. The TFT could be a bit bigger. I know it's straight off the R1, so you know there are some bikes that have got slightly flashier looking TFTs without being overly complicated or you know, overworked. So, the verdict. I'm going to talk about styling. I've got an Mt-10 long-termer. I grew to enjoy it, okay? So I have a feeling that this is going to be very much the same thing. And at the end of the day, if you don't like the look of the new Mt-10, go and buy an old Mt-10 and wait until you do, or wait until it gets updated again, because you know they're all good bikes at the end of the day. The other thing that I want to talk about is the fact that a lot of people will look at this bike with 162, 63 horsepower, somewhere around that mark, and they'll look at it and they'll benchmark it against the Street Fighter V4, and they'll say, oh well, the Street Fighter V4's got 200 horsepower and this has only got 160. I challenge you to go out on the road and use 200 horsepower on a super naked like this on public roads in Britain for more than a couple of seconds. It's virtually impossible to do. I also challenge you to come to Spain on your Street Fighter V4. Let's ride round as fast as we can. I'll go on an Mt-10, you go on your Ducati, and let's see who ends up in hospital first. Let's also see who ends up at the hotel first, because I guarantee you wouldn't be here any quicker than me. And the final, it's just a good value bike that delivers massive miles per hour for me, and the update is highly successful. If you like what you see, get yourself down to a Yamaha dealer. The bikes are going to be in the showrooms between March and April time. They're hoping to get them in. Full details are going to be on Visordown.com when this article and this video goes live. First and foremost, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like and let us know in the comments below. And if you want to stay up to date with all of Visordown's latest videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And for all the latest news and reviews, head over to Visordown.com. Thank you, folks.